long-term strength of our democracy relies on our ability to teach young people civics, and not just in theory, but in practical engagement. We know for a fact that when a young person votes in 3 election cycles in a row, they are almost guaranteed to become lifelong voters. And so if we fail to engage them at that critical stage in their development, then we fail our democracy.
One key benefit of incorporating nonpartisan voter engagement into higher education is that it builds democratic values among America's next generation of leaders and voters.
The more that individuals vote early in their opportunities, earlier in their voting career, the more likely they are to keep doing it. It becomes a lifelong habit, and that builds real power for the people. The more that we vote, the better democracy works.
It's no coincidence that 2020 election data shows that the most common way young voters heard about the election was not from digital outreach and social media, but from other young people.
The foundation of our work is that peer-to-peer outreach, because we know from both surveys, we know from our own success that having a student talk to a fellow student is really the most persuasive way. And it's really because you're in their shoes. And so you understand their challenges, you understand their dreams, and then you understand the way to really motivate them to engage them.
It made me so happy, and it made me so motivated just as a student to finally see students change from when I first started to now. And yeah, they are very interested in getting out and vote, and it made me happy.
Nearly 2/3 of voters ages 18 to 24 talked to friends about politics, and almost half tried to convince their peers to vote.
Because I go to a HBCU, so it's predominantly Black people. And so I always say that they wouldn't try to take away your vote if it didn't matter. Even though it may seem like it doesn't matter, because oftentimes like a lot of misinformation comes. And so just letting them know what news sites to go to, what sources they can believe.
And if you can get enough people in the community to do something, it becomes contagious. And then what happens is they take it out to their families, or they work in the local community, they volunteer in the local schools. So what you really want is to create this kind of contagious ease around voting and engagement in politics and knowledge about democracy and the democratic process.
By helping campus leaders build nonpartisan voting coalitions, combat misinformation, foster dialogue across political divides, and empower new voters to make informed and confident choices, coalition partners are creating a lasting culture of civic engagement. That culture will build on itself even after each class of student vote leaders moves on from a given campus.
And all of a sudden, school, the campus cafeterias were putting up voting information. People were organizing the campus van to take people to go and vote. We had more campuses in Tennessee work to get polling locations than ever before. So I think that has changed just because we created a safe space for people to have the conversations about it.
Like you can see it seeping into the culture, and not only are the students are actually seeing that, and they're seeing the fruits of their labor and the impact of that. They're not like, oh, why are we doing this? They're already registered, but to see that enthusiasm for other people's engagement and support within the community.
It might take a while to see the impacts of that, but it's definitely really clear already that young people are really craving these opportunities to engage with their communities and make their voices heard.
This focus on institutionalization will ensure that campuses continue strengthening democratic values for years to come.
Something that should be 365 days a year, that people are thinking about these issues and what's driving our communities. And I think another part of this is that people are starting to understand is that this is everyone's responsibility.
Starts with voting. It starts with being civically engaged, having these important conversations, reaching people who may not have civic engagement in the forefront of their mind, and then actually going out and doing it. And not just voting, but staying engaged after voting as well is super important. It's all entangled in one.
Higher education is a multi-generational dream and promise. Voting is a ladder, it's a tool to uphold the strength of our democracy. So when students actually understand generation by generation the value and importance of voting, they push our democracy, they push our institutions towards a better future. And I think that really is sort of the heartbeat of our democracy.